I'm going to show you guys how to create this retrowave bass in phase plant. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start out with is our generators. So I'm going to start a new group, grab an analog generator, turn on the unison, turn the voices down to 2, right click on the detune and hit 8. Now I'm going to grab another analog generator just as another layer. For the level of this one, I'm going to right click and hit 30. And then for the harmonic, I'm going to turn it up to 3. And then just to turn down the level a bit, I'm going to grab a mix and set the level to around 92. Then of course the last thing for this group is to add an envelope output. Now the next thing I want to do is add an LFO modulator to modulate the shift of our analog generators. So I'm going to come down here and add a new group, call it shift, and then I'm going to grab an LFO, right click on the trigger input, and for the note trigger, set it to never trigger from note on, so that way it's constantly playing and not being triggered by the MIDI notes. I'm just going to come over here to the preset shapes and click on the sine wave, and then I'm going to right click the rate and hit 0.1382. Then I'm going to come over here to the plus of our LFO, right click on the shift, and instead of this first LFO, I'm going to come underneath it where it says Hertz, right click, and type in 0.9608. Then we're going to do the same thing for our second analog generator. So I'm going to hit the plus on our LFO, right click on the shift, and instead of this first LFO box right here, I'm going to go underneath it where it says Hertz, right click, and hit 0.9608. And so it's not really a noticeable difference, but I just like it so that way there's always movement in our sound. Okay, so now we can start on the effects. Go ahead and add a snap heap, a ladder filter, a gain, a dynamics, and then a multipass. Inside of our snap heap, we're going to do parallel processing. I'm going to add a shaper and create this kind of shape. Then I'm going to right click the drive and hit 7. And then the gain for this group, I'm going to right click and hit -9. So it sounds like this. So it might be a little bit loud, but that's okay. We'll turn it down once we get to the gain snap in. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this now. For our ladder filter, turn on saturate, right click the drive and hit 11. I'm going to right click the cutoff and set it to 150. And then I'm going to right click the resonance and set it to 24. And I'm also going to automate the cutoff with our first macro here. So I'm going to hit the plus and automate the cutoff to 100%. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn on our gain. Right click and hit -5, so we're doing -5 decibels of gain reduction, just to lower down the volume. And then I'm going to go ahead and compress the signal with this dynamics. So I'm going to move the low threshold all the way to the left, right click on the high threshold and hit -30, and then click on the ratio, and I'm going to set it to 4, and I'm going to turn down the release by quite a bit here. And then for the out gain, I'm going to right click and hit 15. And so now it should sound like this. And then for our multipass, I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I only want to split the signal into 2, so I'm going to disable this third group here. Right click on the split to frequency band and hit 4000. And then I'm just going to do some upwards compression with a dynamics. So I'm going to take a look at where our signal's at. I'm going to right click the low threshold and hit -25. Then I'm going to click on the ratio and hit 2. And then I'm going to turn the release down by quite a bit. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do inside of this multipass. So now you can just exit out of this. And that is it for our FX group. For our post effects, go ahead and add a snap heap, 2 slice EQs, and then a limiter. For our snap heap, we're going to open that up, do parallel processing, add a dual delay. For the length of the second delay, we're going to right click and hit 1.68. And then for the time, we're going to synchronize it and leave it at 3/16. Then we're going to add a filter and add a high pass, just to cut the bass frequencies. So we can go ahead and exit out of that now. For our first slice EQ, I'm going to go ahead and add a low shelf, add a peak filter, and then I'm going to add a high shelf. Then I'm going to open up the filter settings, and for the low shelf, I'm going to right click the cutoff and set it to 77. Then I'm going to right click the gain and boost it by 1 decibel. Then for our filter peak, I'm going to right click the cutoff and set it to 361, and then right click the gain and boost it by 1 decibel. And then for our high shelf filter, I'm going to right click the cutoff. Actually, that's perfect where it's at right there. So it's around like 2000, almost 2800 hertz. I'm going to right click the gain and boost it by 1 decibel as well. And so now it should sound like this. So So I just wanted to boost the higher frequencies a little bit more, and I wanted to boost around 300 hertz just to kind of get that warm sound. And then for the last thing, I just wanted to boost the low end just so there's a bit more bass. Then for our second slice EQ, I'm going to go ahead and add a high pass filter and set the cutoff to around 25 hertz just so I can get a little bit of a tighter mix for the low end. And then of course our last effect for our post effects is going to be a limiter. You can also go ahead and turn off the snap heap until we get to the modulation part. Now we're going to add our filter modulator. And so for this, we're going to go ahead and open up our FX group and open up the ladder filter snap in. And then for our filter modulator, we're going to go ahead and add an LFO. I'm going to set the rate to synchronize, and then I'm going to turn it down to 2/16. I'm also going to create this kind of shape, so there's a little bit of an attack, but it's still pretty plucky. And I'm also going to do a little bit of a slope here. Then I'm also going to come up here to our macro, which is currently controlling the cutoff frequency. I'm going to turn it all the way down. And then I'm going to hit the plus of our LFO here, right click the cutoff and hit 37. And so now it should sound like this. Now the last thing we're going to do is add an on-off switch for our delay effect with a remap. So I'm going to go ahead and add a remap utility, turn on snapping for the grid, and make a square wave. So like this, come over here to our delay off on macro knob. I went ahead and renamed this, hit the plus of our macro knob, and hit the equal sign inside of our remap. Now we can come over here to our post effects group, turn on the snap heap, open it up, come back down here to our remap, hit the plus, and then automate the mix of our snap heap by 100%. And then now I can just turn this down. Perfect, now we should be able to turn our delay effect off and on. And that is how you make a retrowave synth bass inside of Faceplant. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Adios.